After the weekend of football we've just had in the Championship, the relegation battle is seriously hotting up. With both QPR and Huddersfield winning at the weekend, they've seriously dragged a lot of the sides above them back down into the relegation battle, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. We're going to be having a deeper look into the 10 sides currently in that bottom portion of the Championship from 24th up to 15th. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What's your general vibe on the bottom three right now and gut feeling for you? Who's going down? Let's take a closer look into some of the numbers. Starting at the bottom of the table, unsurprisingly, it is Rotherham who are looking like the most nailed on side to be relegated come the end of the season. As things stand, they are 12 points adrift. I think most would agree it's very difficult to see the Millers stopping up from this position. They made a few signings late on in January, but nothing substantially which improves their starting 11 for me, and I think it's the most probable outcome that they will be relegated. 23rd in the Championship based on the current points per game metrics, it is Sheffield Wednesday, and it really felt like that defeat over the weekend against Huddersfield was a real hammer blow in Sheffield Wednesday's survival hopes. You'll see here just how much they've actually improved under Danny Roll. Their overall seasonal points per game is 0.76. That would see them finishing the season with just 35 points, but under Danny Roll in isolation, they have averaged 1.05 points per game. Where Wednesday have really let themselves down was that awful run of form at the start of the season under Xisco, and they got themselves back into a position where survival was suddenly really feasible, but they didn't back it up with a strong enough January window, in my opinion. It's now left them in a really sticky situation coming out of that, where I think other sides around them will continue to improve. And a 4-0 loss against a fellow relegation rival like Wednesday had over the weekend, that really can knock the stuffing out of you. Now, this portion of the table is where we start to get really interesting, and this is where the numbers do start to get incredibly close between QPR and the remaining sides that are projected to finish above them currently. Now, QPR's seasonal points per game would see them finishing on just 43 points at the end of the season. They're only averaging 0.93 over the course of the full season, but under Marti Cifuentes, and since he's been in charge, QPR have been much better than that, averaging 1.25 points per game. It was a big result for the weekend, not only just for them beating Blackburn, but also for dragging Blackburn really down into this relegation battle as well. The biggest area where QPR need to improve between now and the end of the season is they need to start picking up more points at home. As things currently stand, they do have the worst home record in the league, having only taken 13 points from the 15 home matches they've had so far. They have slightly improved under Cifuentes in terms of their home form, but that right there will be the difference between QPR surviving or not this season, because away from home, generally speaking, they've been decent value for money lately. Next up, we get to Huddersfield Town. Based on their points per game this season, they're projected to finish this season on 47 points. So sides that are currently in the bottom three, it's looking like that will be the sort of threshold for survival this season. Can the likes of QPR, Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham get to that points tally? Now, for Huddersfield, it's tough to make a definitive call on them right now because we don't know as of recording who their next boss is going to be. We discussed it a little bit in yesterday's video. Currently the bookies' favourite as of recording is Michael Duff. A huge win for them over the weekend against Sheffield Wednesday, and ultimately I think probably the right decision to part ways with Darren Moore. I think had they stuck things out, it was more than likely that QPR would have leapfrogged them eventually. I think they actually had really quite a productive January window with some of the deals they got done. It's just a question of them nailing who their next boss is going to be now. While more often than not, the bottom four have been the sides who we've really been discussing in terms of those relegation spots come the end of the season, I don't think we can afford to discount these next sides who we're going to discuss in the video, the first of which being Stoke City. As things stand, they're projected to finish the campaign with 49 points based on a 1.06 points per game, but there are a few red flags that have cropped up with Stoke all throughout the season. I think that Schumacher is really running into those difficulties right now. It's 3 losses on the bounce. That latest defeat against Leicester, while expected, was a bit concerning because of the manner of that defeat. Under Schumacher right now, they're averaging 1.13 points per game, which is slightly better than their seasonal average, but as I think Stoke have shown in the past, this squad is capable of falling into a little bit of a rut, and at that stage it is difficult to turn things around. A few areas where Stoke absolutely need to improve. One is their finishing. They've been the biggest XG underperformers so far this season, and they've been incredibly wasteful in front of goal. And another is their home form. I think that on a few occasions this season we've seen the home crowd turning a little bit toxic at Stoke, and it's as a result of some really mediocre performances at home. Stoke have scored the fewest amounts of goals at home so far this season, having only scored 11 in the 15 home matches they've had so far. I mean, Stoke fans must be bored stiff watching that. And only Rotherham and QPR have picked up less points at home than Stoke have, so that's a real area of concern there for Stoke. In this overall table, it's Birmingham that are next up. They've got a seasonal average of 1.1 points per game. Under Tony Mowbray so far, that is slightly better at 1.33 points per game, albeit that is judged off a very small sample size of matches. You know, he was only brought into Birmingham last month, and really it was Wayne Rooney's tenure in charge which really tanked their overall record. But Blues are in a situation now where we can't discount them from this relegation talk. I would say that I do have more faith in Mowbray eventually getting a consistent tune out of this Birmingham squad than I do a lot of the other managers who are a little bit more unproven in this relegation battle that are managing other sides right now. As things stand, Blues are currently projected to finish the season with 51 points, which would be enough to keep them up. With Swansea, they're also projected to finish the campaign on 51 points based on their current points per game record. You'll see there that their points per game under Luke Williams, as things stand, is a mere 0.25 points per game. Now that is obviously based on a very small sample size of matches. He's only had 4 games in charge so far. In saying that, there's not been much of a new manager bounce there. It was a draw against Birmingham on his first outing, and then 3 consecutive defeats after that, albeit they did play Southampton and Leicester in those 2 matches. But last time out, a really disappointing defeat against Plymouth at home, a Plymouth side who have really struggled away from home up until that game. Obviously in the actual table, Swansea are only 5 points off the relegation zone right now, and having lost their last 3 matches, those alarm bells will be ringing. And I have to admit, it is a tough upcoming month for Swansea as well, with their next 4 games all being against promotion chasers in Hull, Leeds, Ipswich and Sunderland. And if they lose all 4 of those matches, I really would ramp up my fears for them. Millwall are next up on this table. As things stand, also projected to finish the campaign with 51 points, but they have hit a slump recently. They've lost 3 of their last 4 matches now. Under Joe Edwards, they're averaging 1.06 points per game, which is slightly below their overall seasonal average, which is a bit of a concern. They've also got a pretty tough looking run to come, with 3 of their next 4 games being against sides all in the top 7 right now. Now they're 16th on this table, but that doesn't really paint the full picture for the state of affairs at Blackburn. Based on their seasonal points per game, they'd finished the campaign on 52 points, but I think a lot of Blackburn fans would snatch your hand off for that right now. They are the only team on this entire ranking who hasn't changed their manager this season, and there's clearly a lot of tension around John Doyle Thomason right now, with the drastic tail off in form, some of the problems that he's been dealing with, the unrest behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes into Blackburn right now, which does make them a prime candidate for relegation. Since the start of December, no championship side has picked up fewer points than Blackburn have. In that time, they've picked up just 5 points from 11 matches. They have been conceding goals at an alarming rate this season, and obviously made a big sale in January in losing Adam Wharton. Now there were a few positive points I thought from that January window. I thought they added a good amount of experience, which was clearly needed within this very young squad. But when you have that little bit of tension with the manager, clearly a lot of uncertainty, and a squad which is low on confidence, it does make for a bit of a relegation recipe. Now what Blackburn do have on their side is a consistent source of goals, I think you'd say, through Sammy Smodics and some of their other attacking players who are very talented. You know, it is worth saying, I do think Blackburn and the talent they have within that squad, while there are a few gaps and injuries really have hindered them, I think they're a lot better than what they're currently showing. But the recent numbers especially are very concerning. Then as the last side on this particular ranking, we do have Plymouth. They're averaging a massive 2.33 points per game under Ian Foster currently. Obviously that's taken from a very small sample size of matches, just 3 league games he's had in charge so far, but based on their seasonal points per game, they're projected to finish the campaign on 57 points, and while there could be a tail off, and I'm not ruling them out from being dragged back into this relegation scrap. I think that Plymouth will have enough to avoid that this season. I think they've got that consistent goal threat in there, certainly through keeping hold of Morgan Whittaker in the January window. Only Adam Armstrong has more goal contributions than him so far this season. Their home form has been absolutely tremendous, and they finally got things moving on the road as well with that win against Swansea. So yeah, Plymouth I don't have that many concerns about right now, and that's certainly not the case for the vast majority of other sides who are below them. But that's a bit of a breakdown of the numbers in and around the relegation battle. I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this down below. What's your current gut feeling for who those 3 relegated sides will be? But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.